Hello again, and welcome to Hot Takes! A somewhat frequent complaint I've heard regarding RWBY's Volume 7 and 8 is that Blake should have focused more on Mantle and Faunus' rights given her background. In theory, I agree, but I think it's more complicated than that. I mean, Volume 9 establishes that Blake has and had insecurities about serving as a bridge between Faunus and humans, but even before then, I'd still argue it's more complex than that. For instance, I think people who suggest Blake should have gone herring off to raid the SDC or storm a picket line are ignoring how important prioritizing is, i.e. a magical genocide sorceress takes precedence over most everything else. And as Volume 2 established, downtime is necessary to avoid burnout and collapse.
You what?
We want you to go to the dance.
That's ridiculous. Blake, we're worried about you. This investigation is starting to mess with your head.
You can't sleep, you hardly eat, and to be honest, your grades have been suffering.
You think I care about grades? People's lives are at stake.
Plus, there is always the all-important budget and time limits to keep in mind, but there are definitely a handful of scenes that could have been elevated if Blake had contributed more directly, yet I continue to argue it's more complex. Let's roll back the clock a hot minute and look at Volume 1. A large portion of the early volume balanced its times between a lot of characters, but Ruby and Jaune were the definite focal points until the season finale rolled in. But that begs the question of why, and that answer is storytelling. See, Ruby and especially Jaune are both fish out of water characters. Being out of their depth, be it socially or incompetence, means we get to generate a lot of scenes to help explain the world, establish character, and so on. It's very much putting them in the audience surrogate role. But then, why follow that introductory arc as long with the badge and the burden with Jaundice and not say an arc covering Yang, who was the most neglected of the team in Volume 1? I hear you, I honestly agree with you, but this is still a matter of prioritizing. In V1, Yang didn't have a lot going on besides front row seats to White Rose drama and getting to know Blake. Thus, while it's frustrating, she could most easily fade into the background for quieter character establishing moments over being central. One could give her a Yang exclusive plot or expand on her bonding with Blake, which I'd love, but again, storytelling. You see, Jaune has the Doug from Scrubs problem. Why is he even here? He raises too many questions not to be answered right now, like how did this guy get into Beacon and what motivated such risky behaviour? Thus, while I don't care for the arc and I think things could have been structured to be more balanced, the logic that informed these decisions was sound. Now, before we get back to Volumes 7 and 8, let's make note of something else. Pens out, please. When writing for a series, there are a number of things always being taken into account, including but not limited to world building, overarching narrative, character arcs, character personalities, scene structure, pacing, budget, and production time. Now that's a lot of things, and it informs a lot about how RWBY prioritizes its characters and weaves them into the narrative and world. Going into V7, we've just come off two very Blake-heavy volumes, as unlike, say, RWBY, she didn't need to share screen time with major characters, just secondary or supporting. She was a narrative focal point and had tons of character focus. This means she's already scheduled for more background roles so others can come into focus, lest it become the Blake Belladonna show. This is further helped by it serving Blake's character to focus more on her relationship with Yang, given their reunion and with how V6 ended.
I'm not sure there are many good options left for any of us anymore. Keeping secrets, taking lives, it makes you wonder how far we're going to have to go to keep doing the right thing.
Blake, we did what we had to do.
I know, but next time, I want to make sure we don't have to. And I can tell you, ambushing a huntress who's just trying to help isn't an option I'm thrilled about choosing.
What's more, Nora is easily the most neglected member of the main cast since Volume 1, and given her background, it makes a ton of sense she would also be angered by people being abandoned or neglected by those in power. What's more, they had plans for her and Ren to come into conflict, tension simmering based on their relationship with Ironwood, his policies, and the group's overall plan. This stuff needed focus in order to work, thus it makes sense that Nora ends up playing such a vocal role. Plus, having Nora clash with Ironwood helps remind the viewer she and Ren aren't a package deal, which works well with V8's arc, aided by her proactively looking for solutions while Ren was hoping someone would have the answer. They were doing a balancing act, giving both characters time to do something important. This is why character focus and what that focus centered on was decided as it was.
You're not actually considering that, are you?
What's more important? Establishing communication to unite the world? Or appeasing a few city blocks?
Don't make it sound trivial when you know it isn't.
You keep talking about how we just need a little more time, but you're not the one having to struggle.
We have all had to make sacrifices for the greater good. Mantle has had to bear a lot of the burden, yes, but...
They're bearing all of it! The longer this waiting game goes on, the harder each day gets for people down there, and now you want to send in more soldiers? You can't force people to fall in line. If you do that, you'll just be trading all of these problems for the Grim.
If Ruby had more time and more money, I imagine Blake would have had more to say, but right now that narrative role was being filled by Nora because of Blake's time away from the spotlight and low-key development with Yang. Though it's not as though she never said or did anything, it was her idea to inform Robin after all. Plus, this was used to further develop her relationship with Yang by showing how balanced and communicative their relationship is compared to Blake and Adams. It was also Blake who drew attention to the collapsed mine, and this scene was used to introduce us to Marrow, showing he wasn't ignorant or immune to the impacts of systemic bigotry, but was also deluding himself that it could be overcome by being one of the good ones. This again was necessary because we were being introduced to new characters and they needed to be given time to establish themselves so that they could be more than just cardboard cutouts. Love them or hate them, the Aesops are integral to the overarching themes of the Atlas arcs and say a lot about Atlas itself. And there it is, Ruby prioritizes which characters and which facets of said characters get focus based on how relevant they are to the plot, who needs focus, who is overexposed, and what makes sense for the world and themes. In other words, storytelling. And that's all. If you would like to support my work, please check out my Patreon linked below, or check out my Ko-fi to commission 3D models. Thanks for stopping by.